protection video training specifically on abrasive blasting. This video training is required for any personnel that will be operating any abrasive blasting equipment for the company. All right, in this video training, we're going to be discussing what abrasive blasting is. We're going to also talk about the media type that we use. Specifically, we use Black Beauty. Next, we're going to talk about any potential hazards associated with using Black Beauty, but also we'll be watching a video with additional hazards that might be found when operating any abrasive blasting equipment. Next, we're going to talk about the MIOSHA occupational exposure limits. So the limits, specifically for silica that you're going to be limited to, and that we have to ensure that you're protected so you're not overexposed on the job site. Then we're going to discuss hierarchy of controls, which is what we use to reduce the hazards on the job site and reduce the amount of impact. So we'll discuss everything from engineering controls all the way down to PPE. And then next, we'll talk about the respiratory protection we use, specifically the PAPR, also known as the PAPR. This is a powered air purifying respirator, and we'll get into more detail later on. And then finally, we're going to close out with other additional protection that is required when abrasive blasting. So this video training is more focused on the safety aspects of abrasive blasting, but first let's go over what abrasive blasting is. Abrasive blasting is the use of abrasive material, surface cleaning, removal, or preparation of a material. The picture that you see on the right-hand side is pretty similar to the equipment setup that we use today. This is an air pressure setup, so we use an air compressor which powers the equipment and allows the abrasive material to flow out of the nozzle. There are different types of energy sources that you can use. Another one is a centrifugal wheel, or you can use water pressure such as wet blasting or hydroblasting.
リンゴ？象？あ、
Abrasive blasting equipment can do remarkable things. It's used all over the world in a wide variety of applications. High-pressure compressed air allows operators to apply large amounts of abrasive material at high speeds. It's effective, but it can be dangerous if you don't follow the rules. And that's what this program is all about, providing you with information about how to use this equipment in a safe, professional manner. Because working safely with abrasive blasting equipment is really up to you. You operate the equipment, and only you can ensure that it's done safely. The best equipment, safety procedures, and knowledge in the world will do nothing if you don't put it to work. We'll discuss some potential hazards you may face, personal protective equipment, general safety practices, how to inspect your equipment, and more. The key to preventing workplace injuries is hazard awareness. In this line of work, there are potential hazards that can do serious harm to those involved. But by being aware of the hazard, then taking the steps necessary to ensure your safety and the safety of those working around you, you greatly minimize the risk. There are many things at your worksite that are heavy and awkward to move. For this reason, you must follow established safe lifting techniques to avoid a potential back injury. When lifting bags of abrasives, follow this basic safe lifting technique. Place your feet close to the bag, slightly staggered about a shoulder width apart. Bend your knees and squat down, keeping your back in its natural curvature. Get a good palm grip on the item and pull it close to your body before you stand up. The closer the item is to your body, the less strain is placed on your back. Stand up, using the muscles in your legs, not your back. Also, never twist your back while lifting. You may not think it makes a big difference how you lift, but rest assured, if you lift like this, or this, you're asking for trouble. If any item is too heavy to move safely by manual means, don't do it. It's not worth the risk. Use a crane, forklift, or other equipment designed for this purpose. Work sites can present many slip, trip, and fall hazards as well. Wet, slick, or uneven surfaces, debris, tools, equipment. It's easy to see how a slip or fall could occur, but watching where you walk and avoiding distractions will reduce the risk. Keeping your work area clean is equally important. Make sure any surface holes are covered. Clean up any water, liquid, or other debris that can cause a surface to be slippery. Remember, people wearing blast equipment have a limited field of vision and are susceptible to hazards on the ground. Never operate blasting equipment near power lines. If working near any other electrically powered equipment, make sure it is turned off before you begin. Remember, water and electricity don't mix. When blasting within enclosures where any combustible gases are present, explosion-proof light fixtures, switches, and wiring are required. If your work requires the use of a scaffold, be sure it is erected properly and meet safety requirements. If you're working above 6 feet, you must wear an approved fall protection harness at all times. Make sure the planks are clamped or tied securely to the scaffold, and make sure that abrasive material doesn't build up near the operator. The blast hose and air hose should be tied to the scaffolding to make the hose easier to handle for the operator. This also helps minimize the risk of those on the ground should the hose drop or fall. Everyone on the job site is required to wear personal protective equipment, or PPE. The type and level of protection is determined by the work performed and the hazards present. At a minimum, everyone on the site is required to wear steel-toed work boots, safety glasses, and a hard hat. Hearing protection may also be required. Needless to say, blast operators need more protection. Specially designed blast suits are available and provide a good base of protection. Blasting equipment also makes a lot of noise, so approved hearing protection such as earplugs or ear muffs are required at all times. Workers on site may be required to wear a dust mask or respirator even if they are far from the blasting operation. Check with your supervisor for the correct respiratory protection. The blast operator wears an air-supplied helmet like the one shown here. This helmet provides clean, fresh breathing air, protects the operator's face from airborne abrasives, and provides head impact protection. The lens in the helmet is only designed to protect the operator's face from high-speed abrasives, not larger, heavier objects. For this reason, safety glasses should be worn under the helmet. Any modifications to helmets are strictly prohibited. Never use a helmet without an inner collar. This collar is crucial in preventing harmful dust from entering the helmet during blasting. The cape assembly protects the operator's upper body from rebounding abrasives. Never carry your helmet by the breathing tube. This can cause leaks, compromising the effectiveness of the equipment. To make sure your PPE is providing the level of protection required, it must be properly maintained. Inspect it at least once a day, and look for any signs of damage or wear. Replace any unsafe components immediately. At the end of each shift, dust should be vacuumed from the helmet before it is removed. The helmet should be placed in a dust-free area in a plastic bag until next use. At least once a week, the inside of the helmet, the inner collar, and the cape should be washed with warm water and a mild detergent. Take care of your PPE, and it will take care of you.
自己的科系呀、还有你们未来的方向啊，因为像现在不管是读科系还是未来出路，很多人其实真正读完了什么科系，实际出去做的工作也不见得是那个工作，甚至在那边找不到工作很多这种。
目前就读资管系，资管系他学的其实蛮广的，就什么都有学到，所以不太确定自己要往哪边去。
我是餐饮管理系。
读这个科系出来之后，其实很多人都已经没有去。
对，有一些都不从事餐饮了。 那我自己也是会考虑一下，对，
就不要再当超人，
对，
不要当超人，超人好累哦。
因为现在其实收入还是不是很稳定，那如果要稳定的话，还是希望可以转换跑道。听说学长姐们也是有转换跑道。
我们刚刚有遇到一些学生，他们就很担心那个未来薪资的部分。
我们保障新人呢，前面12个月每个月领5万哦，而且不用有相关的工作经验，也不用是本科系的哦。我们公司主要是希望能够先投资新人。其实呢，我们公司呢过了保障的底薪之后呢，我们每一个月依照你的职级有3万6到7万4的底薪哦，而且业绩奖金是另外计算的。那经过我们统计呢，在公司任职1年以上的伙伴，平均的月薪已经接近9万喽。
真的假的？完了，我要考虑开始要转行了。
那如果不是不动产相关科系的话，要怎么学到相关的知识？
其实这个你可以放心，我们公司针对新人还有完善的教育训练，能够辅导考取专业证照哦。在我们公司呢有师徒制，所以如果说新人进来呢，会有师傅带领着你们，培养你们的沟通能力跟表达能力。其实呢，就算你们不会交际，只要拿出你们的专业跟热忱，还有真诚，让客户对你有信赖，其实一样可以当业务哦。
Since blasting equipment is so powerful, only people who are properly trained and authorized are permitted to operate this equipment at any time. No exceptions. Your company will provide you with the proper training, but remember, it's your responsibility. Inspect all equipment before you use it. This includes the air compressor, couplings, blast nozzles, and nozzle holders. There must be a safety cable at every connection on the blast hose. Test them to ensure a tight, secure fit. Make sure the safety locking pins are in place to prevent accidental disengagement. Check the nozzle and holder. They must not be cross-threaded, worn, or distorted. Check the entire air supply system, PPE, and helmet before each use. Take a look around the area where you'll be working to detect any potential hazards you may encounter. If there are other workers working near or around you, alert them when you are ready to begin. The blasting site must be blocked off to prevent unauthorized personnel from entering. All hose and pipe fittings must be cleaned prior to attachment. Before attaching the air hose to the blast machine, open the safety petcock on the remote control valves. This prevents accidental activation of the remote control. The petcock should also be opened anytime the hose is moved by someone other than the blaster while the compressor is running. Keep your attention focused on the task at hand and avoid distractions. Operating blast equipment is a big responsibility that needs to be taken seriously. To start blasting, close the safety petcock on the remote control valve. Never point the nozzle anywhere other than at the material you are blasting, and never ever point the nozzle at another person. Holding the nozzle itself is not recommended, and the operator must maintain full pressure on the handle lever for even operation. Never tape or tie down the lever. This is a recipe for disaster. Coupling and nozzle holder gaskets must be replaced at the first sign of wear or distortion. A leaking gasket can cause a separation of couplings, or in some cases, the nozzle may blow out of the holder, causing injuries or damage to equipment. Replace your gaskets. If your helmet lens becomes dirty or scratched, your vision could be impaired and your safety compromised. Replace broken, scratched, or pitted lenses immediately. Always keep safety in mind. It's easy to get distracted or think there's no harm in circumventing safety procedures just one time. This is exactly when injuries occur, and nobody wants that to happen. When blasting is interrupted for any reason, blast operators and anyone else in the blast zone must remain in their air-fed helmets. Harmful dust remains airborne long after blasting has ceased. To stop blasting, release the remote control lever handle. The lever and lever lock should spring open at the same time. If there is a delayed reaction, there may be dust or dirt buildup. This should be cleaned before blasting resumes. The operator should hold the blast hose until the air pressure from the nozzle drops off to zero. Lay the hose down carefully. Dropping or throwing the hose down may damage the nozzle or handle assembly. Before removing your helmet, open the safety petcock on the remote controls to prevent accidental activation. At the end of each workday, the blast machine must be emptied. Uncouple the blast hose from the machine. Open the valve all the way. Reduce the air pressure to 40 or 50 psi and pressurize the machine for a few seconds. Emptying the machine at high pressure will damage the machine coupling. Clean up abrasives before removing your respiratory protection. A vacuum system is the best way to remove spent abrasives and debris. Don't use compressed air to blow the dust away. When the air has been determined to be free of dust, the operator and all other personnel in the blasting zone should vacuum the outside of their clothing. Turn off the air compressor and bleed the air tank. Disconnect the air hose and coil it up neatly. Keep hose ends clean. Have we covered every single safety hazard you may encounter? Certainly not. That's why it's so important for you to take a personal responsibility for safety and always use your common sense and good judgment. If you have any questions about the safety of a particular action or site condition, stop what you are doing and ask your supervisor. Don't take chances. Abrasive blasting equipment is powerful and needs to be treated with respect. The safety of your workplace depends on everyone on site. Do your part by always following established safety policies and procedures.
So the media type that we use at the company is what's called Black Beauty, and it's composed of the following elements shown below, materials and their percentages that are included in the product. It is chemically inert, so you don't have to worry about any type of flammability or any other chemical reaction. The inert status will mean that it will not react to anything else that may be in the area. The whole premise behind the safety training is to basically reduce your exposure to things like silica. And because this product does contain 0.01% silica, we have to, that is a definite hazard, and that's what we're going to be protecting against. The benefit to this product is that it only has less than 0.01% silica, which is a lot less than a lot of the other products that could be used. And then finally, another added benefit is the low dust producing. So because we are not in any type of containment, this abrasive blasting is performed outdoors, sometimes in close proximity of the surrounding public. A very good benefit is the fact that it doesn't produce a lot of dust. So we're allowed to close off a smaller area, and we don't have to worry about the material or the media spreading farther than it needs to. So when we're discussing respiratory hazards, such as, silica, we're looking at two different things. So the inhalable particulate fraction, this is the fraction of dust cloud that can actually be breathed into the nose or mouth. Not to say that, it's a hazard, that it goes in your nose and mouth. We do want to ultimately protect against that. But, just going into the nose or mouth doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be faced with, the carcinogenic factor of silica, where it's going in your bronchioles and it's going deeper into your respiratory system that would cause, things like cancer, silicosis later on in the future. What we're really looking for is the respiral particulate fraction. So this fraction of inhaled airborne particles that can penetrate beyond the terminal bronchioles into the gas exchange region of the lungs. So this is where it's actually penetrating through your nose and mouth. It's going down your esophagus and it's going right into your lungs, where it attaches to the cilia that's inside of your lungs. And prolonged long-term exposure to this respiral particulate fraction means that you could be faced with certain carcinogenic effects. You could be faced with silicosis. So that's what we're really trying to protect from. We're trying to prevent silica from actually entering in and going directly into your lungs where it is not able to escape. So when identifying potential hazards for any substance that you use in the workplace, a safety data sheet, also known as the SDS, is a great resource to identify these things. So, and if you were to look in the SDS for Black Beauty, you would see that, there are hazards associated with it, such as the respiratory hazard, because it does contain silica and other materials that do present a significant, respiratory hazard. Also, things like skin contact or anything else will be identified in that SDS. Also, Denso, 7200, both parts A and B, both have SDSs that will identify, what hazards are associated with them when wet handling. So, because it is a chemical and it can irritate the skin, it does require, chemically rated gloves for wet handling this material. So, wet handling, and until the point that it dries, there is that chemical hazard present. Also, it does label out the respiratory hazards associated when you're going to abrasively blast it off. So you're trying to smooth out the denso that is actually on the steel pipe. So all of this information is very beneficial in identifying how you need to protect yourself, and also first aid measures that you can take if you are exposed. All of these documents, along with any other SDS for anything else that you could possibly be exposed to at the company, is located in the safety office at any time. If you'd like to request these documents, we'll be more than happy to provide them to you. I can send them via text, email, or any other means, and so that you can have the information that you need to protect yourself.
Crystalline silica can be found throughout many industries. A common place is on construction sites being developed. So what is crystalline silica? Crystalline silica is a mineral that is found in the Earth's crust. Many materials contain it. Sand, stone, concrete, and mortar all contain crystalline silica. It is used to make everyday products like glass, pottery, ceramics, bricks, and artificial stone. Respirable crystalline silica are the small particles created when cutting, sawing, grinding, drilling, and crushing stone, rock, concrete, brick, block, and mortar. To put it in perspective, these particles are at least 100 times smaller than ordinary sand you might find on the beach. Work activities, such as abrasive blasting with sand, sawing concrete or brick, sanding or drilling into concrete walls, grinding mortar, manufacturing brick, concrete blocks, stone countertops, or ceramic products, and cutting or crushing stone can result in worker exposure to respirable crystalline silica dust. Industrial sand used in certain operations, such as foundry work and hydraulic fracking, is also a source of respirable crystalline silica exposure. Production of fiber optic cables also requires crystalline silica. It can also be found in water treatment plants. Roughly 2.3 million people in the U.S. are exposed to silica at work regularly, some without knowing. There are hundreds of fatal cases due to crystalline silica dust exposure. Knowing the precautions outlined in this video are vital to your safety. Workers who inhale these very small crystalline silica particles are at increased risk of developing serious silica-related diseases, including silicosis, an incurable lung disease that can lead to disability and death, lung cancer, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, and kidney disease. In order to protect workers that have been exposed to respirable crystalline silica, OSHA has issued 2 respirable crystalline silica standards. One is for the construction industry, the other for general industry and maritime. Crystalline silica, also referred to as silicon dioxide, is an oxide of silicon with the chemical formula SiO2. The most common element that contains silica is quartz. The biggest concern when it comes to silica is inhaling the dust. OSHA calls this dust respirable crystalline silica. The most common operations where you may be exposed to this dust is when cutting, grinding, or drilling any material containing silica. Respirable crystalline silica dust in some cases cannot be seen by the naked eye. The International Agency for Research on Cancer, IARC, have found the substance to be a potential or confirmed carcinogen. the substance must be considered hazardous and information provided as required. Constant exposure to crystalline silica can lead to certain types of cancer. Other than lung cancer, you can develop silicosis. This is a form of occupational lung disease caused by inhalation of crystalline silica dust and is marked by inflammation and scarring in the form of nodular lesions in the upper lobes of the lungs. It is a type of pneumoconiosis. Silicosis, particularly the acute form, is characterized by shortness of breath, cough, fever, and cyanosis, bluish skin. It may often be misdiagnosed as pulmonary edema, fluid in the lungs, pneumonia, or tuberculosis. Silicosis resulted in 46,000 deaths globally in 2013, which is down from 55,000 deaths in 1990. So what can you do to prevent inhaling respirable crystalline silica? Once air monitoring has determined that the area has reached the action level of 25 micrograms per cubic meter of air average over an 8-hour period, the employer must have the following in place. A written exposure control program that outlines tasks that may expose you to respirable crystalline silica must be in place. It should also outline work practices, PPE, and engineer controls related to prevention of respirable crystalline silica. It should also outline housekeeping measures to help prevent respirable crystalline silica dust. OSHA states that a competent person must be head of this program. Any worker exposed to silica for 30 days or more per year must be offered a medical exam at least once every 3 years. They must be offered at no cost. The permissible exposure limit of respirable crystalline silica is 50 micrograms per cubic meter of air, average over an 8-hour workday. Spraying the worksite down with water is a common way to prevent dust from entering the surrounding air. Indoor settings often have ventilation systems in place to filter the air. When work practice controls cannot limit the exposure to safe levels, the employer must provide respiratory PPE that will diminish the dust to a safe level. There should be signs posted anywhere that has crystalline silica exposure happening frequently. These areas must be regulated and limit employee access to these areas. The posting of signs in these regulated areas are required. Air sampling results need to be posted in common areas that can be accessed by all employees. There are 4 engineering controls that can be put in place to prevent respirable crystalline silica: substitution, isolation, ventilation, and dust suppression. An example of substitution would be to use crushed glass instead of sand for all sandblasting operations. Isolation would be tenting off the areas and marking it with signs noting the higher level of silica. Ventilation is all about supplying clean air to the facility and venting out hazardous air. Lastly, dust suppression is based on watering down the work area to keep dust to a minimum. Housekeeping is key in prevention. Washing down floors and vacuuming with an approved HEPA device are all good measures in keeping the dust level low. Dry sweeping or blowing the air around just spreads the particles further throughout the work area, putting everyone at risk. Wearing bodysuits and leaving them at the worksite can also help keep the dust isolated. With engineering and work practice controls in place, you can help keep exposure to a minimum. Nothing protects you more than an approved respirator, but good housekeeping will definitely help the people working in the nearby areas. If you are required to use respirators, your company will need to have a written respiratory program in place. This program should outline proper use of PPE and the situations they should be used in. In any case, always be sure the respirator you are using is rated for crystalline silica dust. Not all operations are the same, and some scenarios may require a higher level of protection, such as prolonged sandblasting. Make sure you are aware of the PPE requirements for the task at hand. OSHA has a construction regulation table available on their website, which outlines specific control methods in regard to the task at hand. Be sure to review this and ask your supervisor any questions you might have. Have we covered every scenario you may face regarding crystalline silica exposure? Of course not. But with your common sense and good judgment, you can keep yourself and everyone around you safe. Remember, always keep a clean worksite, and any time you will be exposed to silica dust, make sure you wear the proper PPE. If at any time you have questions or are unsure about the proper PPE for the task at hand, don't hesitate to reach out to your supervisor. Thanks for watching, and have a safe day.
老公，小孩的学费又要缴了。
儿子啊，妈妈的医疗费要记得准备哦。
So I want to recap a part of the video that you just watched, specifically the MyOSHA silica standard, which as the employer we are held to ensure your safety when working with hazards such as silica. So the first thing I'm going to discuss is the action level. The action level has been determined by MyOSHA to be the 25 micrograms per meter cubed in an 8-hour time-weighted average. So they use the 8-hour time-weighted average because the average shift is 8 hours. So as long as you're not exposed to 25 microgram per meter cubed of silica in an 8-hour shift, then the employer doesn't have to take action. If you are exposed over 25 microgram per meter cubed in an 8-hour shift, then that's where the employer has to take action by following the MyOSHA silica standard and providing you with any PPE or any other protections to make sure ultimately that your exposure does not exceed the permissible exposure limit, also known as the PEL. And so the permissible exposure limit for silica is 50 microgram per meter cubed in an 8-hour shift, so an 8-hour time-weighted average. So at that point, you can never exceed that. We have to definitely provide you with anything necessary to make sure that your exposure in that time-weighted average it does not exceed 50 microgram per meter cubed. So to do this, we provide you with a PPE such as the PAPR or PAPR, and also there is other devices that you can use, protection such as supplied air, which we do not currently use at the company. So one of the tools that we can use to reduce exposure to any hazards on the job site is the hierarchy of controls. So hierarchy of controls includes elimination, substitution, engineering controls, administrative controls, and then finally PPE. We try to simplify this for employees by just saying EMP, which is elimination, mitigation, and protection. But I just want to get a little bit more specific into what each of these different tools that we can use to reduce your exposure to hazards on the job site. So the first is elimination. If we can eliminate something, then we've eliminated the hazard. You don't have to worry about it. And in this case with silica and working with a media that contains silica, that simply is not possible. Substitution, we can't really substitute with anything. If we were using another media that had a higher silica content and then we decided to go with Black Beauty, that would be a substitution because it has a significantly reduced amount of silica inside the media. Engineering controls, so there's different types of automation, which of course is not practical for on the job site. Also, there's containment systems where the employee won't be exposed to any silica if it's contained in the equipment. But that's not practical. So engineering controls isn't really something that we can do on the job site. Next would be administrative controls. So what can we do administratively to reduce the exposure? Well, job rotation would be one of them, right? If we have an employee that's exposed, say for 15, 20 minutes, we could switch them out with another employee, and that reduces the exposure that one employee would get over, say an 8-hour time-weighted average. There's also things like restricted work time, which, again, is not practical for our operations. Finally, PPE, which is, kind of our last hope right there, to protect you is typically what we're going to use to reduce your exposure to silica when working with the media such as Black Beauty. So we use the PAPR system, which I'm going to talk further about in a minute. You're also going to see some videos. There are also things like, supplied air. that you can use, but ultimately the HEPA filter that we use with the PAPR reduces your exposure to any type of silica from being inhaled into your respiratory system. Finally, other things like coveralls, gloves, these are things so that, we don't have any type of media making contact with your skin. And then gloves, when you're actually abrasive blasting, but also when you're putting on the Denso, right? You got to have the chemically rated gloves to make sure that you're not going to have any skin irritants when you're working or wet handling the Denso. So the respiratory protection equipment that we have chosen to use is the RPB PX4. So this is a powered air purifying respirator. It has the ability to operate for 13 hours on a single charge. It has 3 speeds, 6 cubic feet per minute, 7.4 and 8.4. Ultimately, pre-planning is really going to come into play when you're looking at what fan speed that you're going to use. So as you see that the higher the fan speed goes will drastically reduce your run time. So if you are expected to use the unit longer than 6 to 8 hours, you might want to reduce your fan unit to maybe 7.4 or even 6. If you're not expected to use it longer than 6 to 8 hours, you always want to default to the 8.4 cubic feet per minute, because that means that the blower fan will give you the maximum amount of positive pressure to make sure that you have no particulates that are coming in your breathing zone inside the head unit. So the unit itself consists of the blower unit with hose. So they actually have the unit right here, and then you have the hose that's shown right here. So the one end of the hose will actually connect to the unit. It'll go right in, and with a quarter turn to the right, it'll lock into place. It'll do the same thing with the head unit that you'll see in the video coming up. The actual battery charger right here. So the battery charger is only able to plug into a wall outlet. So again, if you need an additional battery, we will provide them to you on request. But this will, again, take pre-planning. If we know that we're going to be using the unit that day, you need to make sure that it's charged before you're actually headed out to the job site. Next is the HEPA filter right here. The HEPA filter, there is a pre-filter that does come on, and it'll show you where to attach that in the video coming up. But the HEPA filter is really the defense, right? It's basically filtering out the air to ensure that you're not breathing any type of silica particulates while you're in operation of the machine and while you're abrasive blasting. So the pre-filter is very important because it's that pre-filter that will filter out any of the bigger materials from going into the HEPA filter initially, and what that does is it extends the life of that HEPA filter. So, the last thing and the most frustrating thing that would happen is that, you go to operate the unit and you realize that, it's clogged because no one was using the pre-filter. And, at the end of the day, if you take care of your PPE, it'll take care of you. The next that we're going to talk about is the battery right here. So this battery that plugs into the battery charging unit actually has a battery indicator light on it. So at the beginning of the shift that you have a full battery because you'll see 3 lights lit up when you depress that button. Next, we're actually going to talk about the testing device that you're going to use before you actually operate the unit. So that will attach right where the hose is attached at the top. It has a level on here. That's the minimum level where that ball has to be above to show that, number one, that your HEPA filter is not overly clogged, for operation, and also that the blower unit itself is functioning as designed. So you'll want to put that on there, make sure that ball reaches that level. If it doesn't, contact the safety department, and we'll be able to provide you with another filter or another unit if something is wrong with the unit itself.
Tell me, Penny, why are women better suited to the con than men?
As you know, many of the demanding jobs that require respiratory protection also require portability. How can you ensure your employees are safe, comfortable, and productive in these demanding environments? The RPB PX4 Air is a robust and versatile powered air purifying respirator, PAPR, that provides clean breathing air to the full range of RPB Safety's industry-leading respirators, including the Z3 Welder, T100, and T150 series. Whether you're welding, grinding, painting, or in a laboratory, the RPB PX4 is the respiratory solution for you. The PX4 optimizes user safety, comfort, and portability. It is CE certified and exceeds the requirements of AS/NZS, so the user can enjoy the safety of clean breathing air without the restriction of attached airlines, giving them complete flexibility to move around as their job requires. The unit weighs only 2.5 pounds and is ergonomically designed, contouring to the operator's lower back to minimize strain and maximize comfort. There are two belt options available: the standard web belt or the Nomax FR-rated belt for use in spark environments, such as welding or grinding. The cooling airflow across the user's face produced by the PX4 further optimizes comfort as it keeps the user refreshed and working at an optimal temperature. This significantly reduces fatigue and sweat buildup, which are common issues with negative air cartridge masks, especially during high heat applications. The PX4 is fitted with an ultra-efficient multi-speed German-built fan. This allows users to manually adjust the flow rate to their preference with the easy-to-use LED system control interface. This interface provides information such as fan speed, battery life, and warnings. For extra safety assurance, the unit has a built-in flow adjustment algorithm which automatically increases the airflow to ensure minimum flow rate is always maintained. In the event of a filter blockage, flow rate dropping below the minimum level, or a low battery charge, the user is alerted via the built-in audible and vibrating alarms. The PX4 keeps dust and particles out of the breathing air with a filtration system consisting of a pre-filter and a HEPA filter that far exceeds the 99.97% filter efficiency requirement. A spark arrestor is optional for applications such as grinding or welding. Filters can be easily removed and replaced by simply pressing the lock on the front cover and removing it from the casing. Airflow and filter condition can be checked with the airflow indicator included in the kit. The PX4's ultra-quiet fan operates at a noise level as low as 65 dBA. Independent testing has proven that the long-life, lightweight lithium-ion rechargeable battery will operate for up to 13 hours on a single charge, maximizing productivity and keeping downtime to a minimum. It is securely attached to ensure it stays connected, yet simply unlocks from the unit to allow the user to view the battery charge indicator. The PX4 breathing tube features an easy lock system for quick installation while ensuring it will not unintentionally release. The RPB PX4 Air is your ultimate powered air purifying respirator that advances your safety and increases your productivity.
So the head unit that we use with the PAPR is the RPB Z-Link respirator. So this is, again, positive pressure. It creates almost like a air conditioning type feeling, blower fan, constantly putting that positive pressure, and it allows and prevents any type of particulates from coming in. So this is why you don't have to be fit tested for this. It's literally giving you constant positive pressure and preventing any of the contaminants from coming in. Also, the air, circulation prevents fatigue, which is a great benefit. So, having all of that air, especially on a hot day, that'll definitely, extend your ability to abrasively blast longer while using the unit. It does have a shoulder cape on it, so that should go over your coveralls. And again, that's just another added benefit in preventing particulates from entering in your breathing area. It does have an assigned protection factor, an APF of 1,000, which is more than what is required. So, this PAPR is definitely a benefit to you. It will prevent fatigue, and we're also going over and above the protection that is actually required. So the hose connection is on the back of the helmet, and that will prevent the hose from interfering with any of your abrasive blasting operations.
Setting up your respirator for use. To set up your respirator, remove it from the box and packaging. Take your PX4 Air PAPR. Press the charge button on the battery to ensure your battery is fully charged. We recommend fully charging the battery before first use. Clip the battery onto the PAPR. Note the curve of the battery needs to follow the curve of the PAPR. To install your filter, first remove the housing from the PAPR. Insert the filter into the housing and clip it back onto the unit. To install your pre-filter and spark arrestor, first remove the green filter cover. Place the spark arrestor, then the pre-filter onto the cover and clip it back onto the unit. Attach the breathing tube to the PAPR. And thread the breathing tube into the Z-link. Note, you can untangle the breathing tube by twisting on the swivel. Turn on the PAPR and mount it on your waist.
Exam Topics, your gateway to IT certification success. From Microsoft.
Put the respirator on your head and adjust the ratchet for a comfortable fit. If you're too close to the visor, too far away, or your head is too high, take it off and adjust as necessary. After adjusting, put the respirator back on. Adjust the air deflector to the desired position and close your visor. Tighten the inner bib using the toggle until comfortable. Remove and replace the safety lens. Open the visor and locate the clips on either side of the lens next to Z-link. Press and twist the visor away from the frame. Remove and dispose of the impact lens. To replace the lens, position it in the bottom clip, then guide the clips in on the left and right. Close the visor frame and ensure the lens is in at the top and lock the visor on either side.
So public safety is always a major consideration on any of our job sites. So this is no different with abrasive blasting. So some of the requirements that you have to do is first, you have to caution tape off an area to prevent entry. So, you want to take into account wind conditions, high traffic areas, to figure out, how big of a barrier that you need. And, you also need to remain vigilant throughout the day to make sure, if wind conditions change, you might need to, extend the barrier out in certain areas to make sure that any type of dust particulates that are being produced by the abrasive blasting is not affecting any of the surrounding public. Next, with that barrier, you also have to have signage to communicate, the hazard and ultimately what's going on. So it'll need to read abrasive blasting, and it'll need to, show that the hazard being silica and any type of dust in the air. So the signage has been purchased and is available at the safety department. If you just give us a call, we'll be happy to provide that for you. And then finally, all crew members, just like anything else, need to remain vigilant at all times to make sure that they understand, where the public is. If there is, somewhat of a high traffic area, make sure that no one in the public enters the blasting area. So again, remain vigilant and, seeing if you need to extend the barrier at any time, but also making sure that you're constantly have your head on a swivel and make sure no one enters the blasting area. So finally, we're going to talk about additional protection that we need. So we have the powered air purifying respirator to basically prevent any type of respiratory hazards that are present with the silica. But we also need to protect against, the media that's coming out at a very high rate of speed. So gloves that are, leather, they're cut resistant. That's what we're going to need when we're actually abrasively blasting. When we're using the Denso, we need to use chemically rated gloves when we're wet handling it. So when you're actually applying it to the steel pipe, you want to make sure that you have that chemically rated glove in use because you don't want any skin irritation while using it. And then finally, the coveralls. We want to make sure that coveralls that cover every part of our entire body, all the way from the boots. And we want to make sure that we have, long sleeves and that the actual cape is going over the coveralls. But you also want to make sure there's no rips and tears. When you're inspecting your personal protective equipment like your PAPR, you also need to be inspecting the gloves, making sure there's no rips and tears. And you also need to make sure your coveralls are in good condition. So in closing, I just want to take a moment to stress the importance of, the PPE and making sure it's in good operating condition at all times for yourself, but also for your other coworkers. So making sure that you're protecting the equipment, that you're keeping it clean, making sure, there's full batteries and making sure it's in good operation. Making sure you're cleaning it at the end of the day. This will extend the life of this very expensive personal protective equipment, and will ultimately help everyone out in the end and ensuring everyone's safety. If at any time you have any questions whatsoever, please contact the safety department. We'll be happy to provide you with anything such as materials or equipment and answer any questions that you have. So please feel free to give us a call at any time. Thanks.